Where the Road Leads. Chapter 7. Capturing a Moment. For the first time since leaving Lotus Pier, Wei Ying slept without setting a plan for the morning. No training, no chores, no schedules, no one waiting for him. His body woke naturally when it was ready. The realization alone felt wonderful. He lay in bed for a while, staring at the ceiling and listening to the sounds of Ezhou waking outside his window. People talking, merchants opening their shops, carts rolling along stone streets. Life continuing. And for once, he wasn't rushing to keep up with it. After enjoying a warm meal and another hot bath, Wei Ying headed back into the city. The morning passed much like the previous day, helping merchants, carrying boxes, running errands, smiling at vendors, chatting with people. By now, several stall owners already recognized him. One even greeted him by name. "Back again, little Wei?" Wei Ying grinned. "I need to earn my meals somehow." The merchant laughed and immediately found work for him. By midday, a few more copper coins had joined his growing reserve. Not a fortune, but enough. Enough that he could begin thinking beyond mere survival. That afternoon, instead of returning to his studies immediately, Wei Ying made a detour. A small stationery and art shop near the center of the city had caught his attention earlier. Today he stepped inside. The smell of paper and ink greeted him instantly. Shelves lined the walls. Stacks of paper, brushes, inkstones, pigments, scrolls, everything neatly arranged. Wei Ying wandered through the shop slowly, examining each item with curiosity. Eventually, he purchased several simple pigments and a few inexpensive painting supplies. Nothing extravagant, just enough to begin. Back at the inn, he spread everything across the table. The bright colors immediately caught his eye. Carefully, he tested each pigment on rough practice paper. Different amounts of water, different brush pressures, different strokes. He quickly discovered that painting was much harder than it looked. His first attempts were disastrous. The river resembled a snake. The boat looked lopsided. The moon somehow became oval. Wei Ying stared at the results, then burst out laughing. Fortunately, no one else was there to witness his humiliation. Still, he continued, patiently, experimenting, practicing, trying again. Eventually, once he felt comfortable enough, he pulled out a fresh sheet of paper, then paused. What should he paint? The answer came immediately. His first journey, his first night of freedom. The memory remained vivid. Slowly, he began. A river beneath moonlight. A lone boat drifting through dark waters. A figure reclining against the railing, looking toward the heavens. Above him stretched a sky filled with countless stars. A full moon hanging bright and clear overhead. The same moon he had watched all night. The same stars he had never truly seen before. Every brushstroke carried the memory with it. The gentle rocking of the boat. The cool night breeze. The feeling of freedom. The simple happiness of existing beneath an endless sky. Hours passed unnoticed. The afternoon sunlight gradually shifted across the room, then faded entirely. Only when darkness began creeping through the window did Wei Ying finally lower his brush. His hand ached. His neck felt stiff. His eyes were tired. Yet he smiled. The painting wasn't perfect. Far from it. Several proportions were slightly off. The perspective needed work. The stars looked somewhat uneven. But it wasn't bad, especially for a first attempt. Wei Ying carefully lifted the painting, examining it from different angles. The memory was there, captured, preserved, just like he had hoped. A moment that would otherwise have faded with time. Now it existed on paper. His first adventure. His first night as a free person. As he continued studying the painting, a thought suddenly occurred to him. His eyes widened slightly. Wait. He tilted his head, then looked at the painting again. Then at the small pouch of coins resting nearby. Could this sell? The possibility had never occurred to him before. He knew paintings were valuable. Some very valuable. Though admittedly, those were usually created by masters. Not wandering 10-year-olds experimenting with brushes for the first time. Still, there was only one way to find out. And if people were willing to buy them, then this could become another source of income. A pleasant one at that. Far more enjoyable than carrying boxes. The thought immediately excited him. Wei Ying carefully allowed the painting time to dry, then rolled it up. Not too tightly, just enough to transport safely. After changing into fresh robes, he tucked the painting beneath one arm and headed downstairs. The evening market was already beginning to come alive outside. Lanterns glowed warmly. Crowds filled the streets once more. Merchants advertised their wares. Musicians performed near busy intersections. The city buzzed with energy. Wei Ying stepped into the flow of people, painting in hand, smile firmly in place, and set out to discover whether his first attempt at capturing a memory was worth anything at all. See, the evening market was as lively as ever when Wei Ying arrived at the street known for its stationery shops and art merchants. His painting was tucked carefully beneath his arm. Truthfully, he wasn't expecting much. Perhaps a few copper coins. Perhaps advice. Perhaps a polite refusal. After all, it was his first painting. He was hardly a master artist. Still, there was no harm in asking. The owner of the first painting shop he entered immediately greeted him warmly. "Young master, looking for a painting?" Wei Ying shook his head. "I would like to sell one." That earned him a curious look. The shopkeeper motioned him forward. "Let's have a look then." Wei Ying carefully unrolled the painting across the counter. The shopkeeper's polite smile faded. His eyes narrowed slightly. He leaned closer, then closer still. For several moments, he said nothing. The silence stretched long enough that Wei Ying began wondering if he had somehow offended the man. Finally, the shopkeeper straightened. His expression had become rather strange. "This?" He looked at Wei Ying, then at the painting, then back at Wei Ying. "This does not look like the first painting of a 10-year-old child." Wei Ying immediately grinned. The reaction alone pleased him. "It definitely is." The shopkeeper clearly didn't believe him. Wei Ying pointed toward the moonlit river. "I saw that scene while traveling." His smile softened. It was beautiful. The merchant studied him carefully, then looked back at the painting. There was something genuine in those brushstrokes, something difficult to teach. The technical skill was rough in places, the perspective imperfect, yet the emotion behind it was remarkably clear. The painter had loved the scene. That much was obvious. Eventually, the shopkeeper named a price. Wei Ying's jaw nearly hit the floor. "That much?" The merchant chuckled. "You sound disappointed." "I'm shocked." The amount wasn't enormous. Not compared to wealthy cultivators, but compared to carrying boxes around the market, it was a small fortune. Several days of comfortable living. Perhaps more. Wei Ying immediately stared at the painting, then frowned. The merchant raised an eyebrow. "You've changed your mind?" Wei Ying hesitated. The painting represented his first journey, his first night of freedom, his first memory captured on paper. A part of him suddenly didn't want to sell it. Not this one. Not the original. Finally, he shook his head. "I'll draw it again." The merchant blinked. "What?" "I want to keep this one." Wei Ying rolled the painting up carefully, then smiled. "But I'll bring you another tomorrow." The same scene. The same scene. He thought for a moment. "Actually, it'll probably be better." The confidence in his voice made the shopkeeper laugh. "Very well." He folded his arms. "I'll look forward to seeing it." The deal settled. Wei Ying spent the rest of the evening much as before, helping vendors close their stalls, carrying supplies, earning a few more coins, chatting with familiar faces. By now, several merchants greeted him whenever they spotted him. One even handed him a steamed bun while insisting he looked too thin. Wei Ying accepted happily. As night deepened, he made his way toward the riverbank. Pashao appeared in his hand with a familiar hum. The sword forms followed. Again and again. The moonlight reflected from the blade as he moved through familiar patterns. Each repetition felt slightly smoother, slightly more natural. Afterward, he dove into the river once more, swimming along the bank, cooling down, washing away sweat, enjoying the simple pleasure of moving. By now he had decided swimming was one of the best things in the world. Returning to the inn later that night, Wei Ying expected to be exhausted. Surprisingly, he wasn't. His body felt pleasantly tired, but his mind remained active, excited. The thought of painting again refused to leave him. So after changing clothes, he immediately sat down at the table. The first painting rested nearby. His reference, his memory, his inspiration. This time, his brush moved with greater confidence. The scene already existed inside his mind. He no longer needed to search for it. He simply recreated it. The river, the boat, the stars, the moon, the lone figure reclining against the railing, watching the heavens. Every brushstroke came easier than before. Mistakes were corrected. Proportions improved. The moon looked round this time, which Wei Ying considered a significant achievement. Hours slipped by unnoticed. The city outside gradually fell silent. The inn grew quiet. One by one, lanterns extinguished throughout the building. Still he painted, until finally, sometime around midnight, he set down the brush, then blinked, and stared. The The second painting was undeniably better. The river looked deeper, the moonlight softer, the night sky more alive. Even the figures seemed more relaxed, more real. Wei Ying couldn't help smiling. Progress. Visible progress. In a single day? That felt incredibly satisfying. After letting the painting dry, he carefully set it aside, then collapsed into bed. The next morning, he headed directly toward the painting shop after breakfast. The shopkeeper spotted him immediately. "You actually came back." Wei Ying proudly unrolled the painting. The merchant's eyes widened. Then he leaned forward, silently studying every detail. When he finally looked up, his expression was one of genuine surprise. It improved. Wei Ying grinned. "I told you." The shopkeeper laughed. "You did." After another inspection, he paid the agreed amount, then paused, added several extra coins, and pushed them across the counter. Wei Ying blinked. "What's this? A bonus?" The merchant carefully rolled up the painting. "For proving me wrong." Wei Ying stared at the additional coins, then slowly smiled. His first painting sale. His first earnings from something he truly enjoyed. As he left the shop with a noticeably heavier money pouch, a new possibility quietly settled into his thoughts. Perhaps painting wasn't merely a hobby. Perhaps it could become part of the journey too. It has been 3 days since he arrived at Ezhou. 3 peaceful days. 3 busy days. 3 days filled with new experiences. By now, several vendors knew him by name. The fruit seller always greeted him with a smile. The old woman with the lantern never failed to ask whether he was eating properly. The painting shop owner had even promised to purchase future works if he passed through the city again. Life here was pleasant, simple, and perhaps because of that, a small part of Wei Ying was tempted to stay. Just a little longer. A few more days. A few more paintings. A few more familiar faces. Yet he knew he couldn't. Not yet. Ezhou was still part of Yunmeng, still within the territory of the Jiang sect. Every extra day increased the chance of being recognized, increased the chance of someone reporting his whereabouts, increased the chance of being found. And Wei Ying had not come this far only to be dragged back. The road was waiting. So on the 4th morning, he packed his belongings. His notebooks, his painting supplies, his lantern, his sword, everything neatly stored within his chinquan pouch. Then he settled the bill at the inn and stepped out into the cool morning air. For a brief moment, he turned around and looked at the building. His first inn. His first room paid for with his own money. His first temporary home. A smile touched his lips. Then he continued on. Fortunately, he had already arranged transportation. During the past few days, he had frequently helped a merchant load and unload goods. The man operated a carriage route between Ezhou and several nearby villages. The work was repetitive, demanding, and apparently difficult to find reliable help for. Wei Ying had quickly made himself useful. In return, the merchant had agreed to let him ride along, provided he continued helping with the cargo. A very fair trade. When Wei Ying arrived at the merchant's warehouse, preparations were already underway. Several workers were loading crates onto a large wooden carriage. The merchant spotted him immediately. "There you are." Wei Ying grinned. "I said I'd come." The merchant pretended to look skeptical. "I wasn't entirely convinced." Wei Ying immediately began helping load boxes. The work went quickly. Cultivators possessed physical strength far beyond ordinary people, even one as young as Wei Ying. Several workers gave him impressed looks as he effortlessly carried crates nearly half his size. The merchant merely shook his head. "You're going to make the rest of us look lazy." Wei Ying laughed. Before long, everything was ready. The horses were hitched, the cargo secured, the road awaited. With a creak of wooden wheels, the carriage rolled out of Ezhou. Wei Ying sat beside the driver, watching the city gradually disappear behind them. The familiar streets, the market, the river docks, the painting shop, the inn, all slowly shrinking into the distance. He felt a brief pang of sadness. Not because he regretted leaving, because he had enjoyed his time there. 3 days. That was all. Yet Ezhou had become another memory. Another place he could mark on his map. Another page in his journal. The road stretched ahead. Fields spread across the countryside. Farmers worked beneath the summer sun. Occasional villages appeared along the route. The scenery changed slowly but steadily. Wei Ying found himself enjoying every moment. Even riding in a cargo carriage felt exciting. A week ago, he had never imagined doing something like this. Now it felt completely natural. By afternoon, they arrived at the next village. Compared to Ezhou, it was considerably smaller. A handful of streets. Several dozen homes. A modest marketplace. Nothing particularly remarkable. Yet life thrived here all the same. Children played near wells. Farmers discussed harvests. Merchants exchanged goods. The village possessed its own rhythm, its own character, its own stories. Wei Ying immediately helped unload the cargo. Crates, barrels, bundles of supplies. The work took nearly an hour. When everything was finally finished, the merchant wiped sweat from his brow, then glanced toward Wei Ying. So where are you headed now? Wei Ying looked down the road stretching beyond the village, then smiled. Not sure yet. The merchant blinked. You don't know? No. The answer came surprisingly easily. Because it was true. He hadn't chosen a destination, only a direction. The road would decide the rest. The merchant stared for a moment, then laughed loudly. You're a strange kid. Wei Ying grinned. I hear that a lot. Eventually, it was time to part ways. The merchant reached into his sleeve and tossed him a few copper coins. For the help. Wei Ying caught them automatically. You don't have to dash. I know. The man waved dismissively. Take them anyway. Wei Ying smiled, then bowed politely. Thank you. The merchant nodded. Safe travels. You too. And just like that, their paths diverged. The merchant returned to his business. The village resumed its daily routine. Wei Ying adjusted the strap of his chinkoan pouch and turned toward the road ahead. No destination. No schedule. No obligations. Only possibilities. The afternoon sun warmed his back. A gentle breeze stirred the grass along the roadside. And with a light step, Wei Ying continued forward, following wherever the road led next.